Good morning. It is May and mid-May, and we are looking through the garden today, the urban farm. Wanted to show folks around to see what we were up to at this point in the year. So I'm going to start at the greenhouse garden where we're looking at some flowers and herbs. This is a mixed bed. All of our beds are mixed, and the foundation of our organic growing is biodiversity. We want to feed the pollinators for their own sake, and we also want them around. We want to create a deeply diverse system so that we can support the predators of the pests that we want to get rid of. What we're aiming for here is not scorched earth, is not that all the enemies are dead, but rather that we keep them in balance. That's what we're seeking, is balance. We want to balance soil, we want to balance the ecosystem. And so as stewards of this space, we get to be, we get to oversee an ecosystem. And what we want to do is intensify the diversity. Instead of aiming to kill all the pests and diseases, we want to intensify the diversity of the soil and of the things above the ground and below the ground so that it will take care of itself. We trust, like the forest, like a prairie, like a rainforest, like the ocean, it functions without our interventions. And if we believe in the wisdom of this beautiful order that we're a part of, then let's trust in it and see if it doesn't take care of itself. It does take care of itself. If we bring all the elements here, we have some beautiful pansies here, and we have some alyssum. This white flower is a year-round bloomer here in Nashville, and I love it. I plant it everywhere because it is such a rich source of food for all sorts of beneficial insects. The beneficial insects are pollinating, and they are also keeping there are predators who keep the pests of our target plants in check and their populations in balance. This is some lavender here. We have comfrey, which mines minerals from deep in the soil, brings them up to the leaves, where we can chop them and drop them and cover the soil so that it remains moist. It also suppresses weeds. It also feeds all those nutrients that are brought up to the surface. They will then feed the plants that can't reach so deep. This, you can already see a little beneficial wasp on there. This is milkweed. It is the soul food of the monarch butterfly. This is dock. It is not intended, but we usually keep it around because it makes such a good mulch plant. That way we don't have to walk to the mulch pile to get mulch. We just mulch from the materials that it's drawing up from the subsoil. More pansies. This is bachelor buttons, black and blue salvia. We have some Swiss chard here, more alyssum, more Swiss chard, lettuce, some of that going to seed, cosmos. We have some really nice volunteer kale plants. Our garden got bulldozed by a construction site, but we just planted it out. This is something we call hugelkultur. Mounds of earth, sometimes logs underneath it, that are used to increase the surface area. So because it's a little hill, we have a lot more growing space than if it were just flat, right? Just the dynamics of that. And then this northern or northeastern side is cooler, so we could plant lettuce here, remain a little cooler. The southwestern side's warmer, so we could leave the tomatoes over there, or whatever else, maybe squash, to grow there. So it also creates some little microclimates, little places that are, microclimate is somewhere that's warmer, wetter, cooler, drier. And if we get the plant to its preferred microclimate, then we can create a space for it to grow more amicably. So just match that up, and this is an example. This is a really beautiful pomegranate. Now, pomegranates in Nashville, I don't know anybody else that's growing them, not to say that they're not, but it is not what you'd expect in Nashville. We look at these lovely red blossoms and tiny little pomegranates coming out. This will be loaded with hundreds of pomegranates. It's a Russian pomegranate from Ison's Nursery in Georgia. And you know why this is thriving is because of this. There's a brick and glass wall facing south, and that gets sun all day. It radiates out back into the tree and into the soil, and gives it a slightly warmer advantage, right? And that makes all the difference. We have another Russian pomegranate that we grew for 7 years. It never got taller than me. And it's the same plant, planted the same year, different spot. It can make all the difference between a successful planting and an unsuccessful one. We have some lovely kale here, some curly kale, some red Russian kale. These are some of our tree stock. This is a trellis of muscadine grapes that are growing over here. So vertical growing. It's going to be full of some lovely, tasty muscadines. This is our greenhouse. This is our aquaponics system. So we have tilapia down there. Let's see. They are nice and fat. We're ready to eat them. Ready for some fish tacos. And above this, we have decks of plants growing. And the fish water is pumped to the top, where it reticulates down through the system and then back to the fish. The bacteria on the rocks break down the ammonia so that ammonia becomes usable nitrogen for the plants, which makes plants grow like crazy. Also waters them, so it fertigates the plants, and that metabolizes the fish waste so that the fish have clean water coming back to them. So the fish feed the plants bacteria and rocks filter for the fish, and it's a sort of somewhat self-enclosed system, a virtuous loop cycle. It allows us to grow a lot of food on a very small footprint. We can grow a few thousands of pounds of food on a 4 by 8 footprint, and we have protein, and we have, our greens on top. So it's a very interesting system, a lot of work, very dynamic system. You never step into the same river twice, and you never see the same aquaponics system 2 days in a row. So it's a lot of management, but it's an interesting system. This is an analog of a river. It's sort of an example of how we try to imitate nature. Rivers have rocks, moving water, fish, and that's what we have here. And we substitute the hydrologic cycle for a pump, right? And so the water moves through that, and we have plants growing like crazy and fish protein. And this mature system is not hard to care for at this point. It's constant care, but it's not much care. Each day we spend 10 minutes on it, tops. Here are some nursery plants in our greenhouse. We are growing mainly permaculture plants, flowers for bees and pleasure, pollinators, and support insects, beneficial insects. We have tomatoes, sage, peppers. We have chamomile, more tomatoes, echinacea or purple coneflower. We have stinging nettle, and here's another smaller aquaponic system with a whole big bed of chocolate mint that we cut and dry for teas. These are elderberry, fig. We have a lot of other native plants here. There's cilantro, there's black-eyed Susans or Rudbeckia, and so this is how we grow. We have probably about 15,000 plants coming out of this greenhouse a year. It is a real time saver. So really, when you step inside a greenhouse, you're moving 6 weeks into your future. It's 4th of July there. We've enjoyed a fine gathering with our friends, and we're partway into the summer. So basically, you can think of it as a time machine or a transporter. It also moves us effectively 500 miles south in terms of what we're able to grow. So we're able to grow as if we're in South Georgia here in Tennessee. So you can imagine it either way. We can put seeds in soil 6 weeks before we can get them outside, which gives us that much more time to eat, that much more time to enjoy the flowers, in both directions, both earlier in the spring and later in the fall. So that's our greenhouse area, and we grow really intensely. We have over here a group of goats grazing in a small piece of woods beside the boys' dorm. We move them around campus. We run the goats each morning to a different spot if they're not on their home turf and it's not raining. So goats! There we have some of our babies. They do a great job landscaping. So places where there's a lot of overgrown material, they are ideal. There's Milo coming out of the woods. There's Elphaba. There's Peanut and April. And these are miniature fainting goats. They have a tendency to lock up and tip over when they get excited, which is just for fun, really. Not very an adapt trait, but somebody thought it was interesting, and they're native to Tennessee, so we keep them. They're also small. Their fainting quality makes them easier to catch and manage, therefore. So we have mostly fainting goats here at the farm. So this is their domain, and yeah, we're coming up on the orchard. We have a mixed orchard, so we plant tomatoes in the rows, and we're increasing our garden space between the plantings here. We have some sunflowers coming up and some tomatoes planted along this fence. Inside the fence are some trees. There's persimmon, mulberry, almond, jujube. We have pears and plums. There's another Asian pear. We have nectarines. We have peaches. We have lots of more plums. Plums have done well for us. Here's some of the peaches that we have here, peach trees. Younger plums. This big plum here gives us a couple 100 pounds of plums per year. So, we have We have an orchard of about 50 trees and vines around the campus, which we've just planted in the midst of everything else. Some places are a little more intense, like the one we just walked through. Sometimes when we see space, we just plant a fruit tree. Fruit trees are really relatively easy compared to keeping a garden. Sorry for the train noise. This is catnip. It's a beautiful plant. Feeds a lot of pollinators. We have strawberries mixed in there. I don't know if you can see the strawberries. We have hyssop, and we have cosmos. We have bachelor buttons, rosemary, trifoliate orange. It's orange that grows in temperate regions, and we have a small elderberry there. Rudbeckia or black-eyed Susan, and then echinacea here. And this is like a nice kind of drought-tolerant bed here. It's a hot spot, and it doesn't get a lot of water. It kind of bakes in the middle of all these all this concrete, and so we needed to plant drought-tolerant plants. And so that's just a piece of ground that we manage of. It wasn't being used, so we started using it.